Hi, welcome everyone. This is the Granite Mountain Movie Club. I am your host. I go by Granite. Today we are doing something a little different. This will be like a mini episode, probably only about half an hour. Initially, Dr. Bennett was going to join us for the Dune 2 episode that we just put out about a week ago, and there was a conflict. He couldn't make it. So we recorded an episode about it, but I think he's got some stuff to say, I think, about it that would be interesting. And there's actually kind of a joke we've got like in various like chats and stuff about like, oh, you know, Bennett would have a good take on this, because there's a range of things where he's got a take that we know he's going to have something interesting to say about a given thing. And I think Dune 2 is one of there's a lot in there that's like, there's like a lot of Bennett raw material in Dune 2, stuff for him to work.
Bennett bait.
Yeah, Bennett bait. So yeah, Bennett, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm good. And I think you're joining us from the road, which is cool.
That's correct.
I don't think I've ever had a moving guest before, someone who is in motion. So that's pretty cool. I hope that comes through. I hope you guys can feel the momentum of this conversation. and the reason, I mean, we're kind of going back to the well here real quick, because first of all, like I said, you weren't there for this when we recorded. But also, this is like, there's just been such a response to this movie. You know, I've been doing this show and sort of doing this show for like 2 years, and I've been on this corner of Twitter, or a specific corner of Twitter, for longer than that. And this movie has like a response that I've not really seen before. So it's just it's kind of love it or hate it. Got everyone talking. So yeah, anyway, what did you think of it?
Yeah, so I said a couple of days ago that I think your opinion of Dune 2 is largely a function of whether you are more mad at the filmmakers for being kind of at war with their story, or whether you're more impressed with the story for kind of breaking through that and overcoming their attempt to subvert it. And I don't think it's Zendaya. I don't think it's her fault. I don't think it's even Denis' fault. I think it actually is Frank Herbert. And like everyone was trying to sort of faithfully execute Herbert's overall vision, which was basically him capturing lightning in a bottle and then scaring himself and then trying to walk it back. And that I essentially, because he said, and Denis points this out in some interviews, Herbert said like, oh, you're not supposed to love Paul. You're not supposed to think he's the best. You're supposed to have at minimum very complicated feelings about Paul. And my feelings about Paul are just like not that complicated.
Yeah, and I've not read Dune Messiah. I think I probably will. In that one, I guess he reins him in a bit, or makes it more obvious that he's someone to be feared and not loved.
Yeah, and he like literally turns him into a scary like alien monster. Like he becomes a sandworm.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. I can't wait to get to that. And I see that Dune Messiah is much shorter than Dune, but yeah. So and then I guess he kind of Villeneuve. He was saying like, well, I kind of just incorporated some of that. I don't know, would you call it retrofitting or something? I took some of Dune Messiah and kind of incorporated some of the attitudes that people would later have, like into this one, so they would like know to be scared later or something. Yeah,
and I mean, you're kind of stuck there, because if you want to keep telling Frank Herbert's story, it's sort of like, if you were to do like, suppose Star Wars was a book, and you were writing the first installment, and everything you're right the screenplay installment, and you were trying to say like, oh, Darth Vader's actually his dad, and there's going to be this big reveal. You would feel like stupid as a storyteller, not planting the seeds early, because in order for there to be a satisfying conclusion, that there has to be sort of some breadcrumbs, and that's sort of why retcons don't really work in a lot of cases. Obviously Star Wars is an exception, but like you would feel that temptation to like, all right, I got to telegraph on some level that there's a reveal coming. And yeah, I mean, like, so with this one, there's also this very strong, I don't even know if it's a 2024 thing. It's almost like a 2000s or 2010s thing. This like Reddit atheist strain where you're supposed to think that religious people are scary and dangerous and stupid and ridiculous. And that's hard for me to square with like other films that Denis has made, because I think he has more respect than that. So I don't know where that came from. I wasn't really expecting that this round.
Yeah, I've wondered a lot about some of that. And I don't know, films are such a messy process getting a film made, and there's so many, I guess the corporate speak would be stakeholders. There's so many stakeholders that probably have a say. And this is probably his biggest budget movie, I think. Probably costs more than Blade Runner, maybe a little bit. But there's a lot of money involved, and I assume maybe some of those people get sort of informally get a say in some of what happens. So yeah, I don't know if that's part of it. If someone said, it has to, there's an attitude that has to be there. We need to see that, before we'll sign off on a final print or something.
Yeah. And I mean, Herbert had like a very 70s like drug addict version of that, like just sort of a conviction that religious experience is sort of materially explicable, and like, because it's the spice is sort of core to the whole religious experience. And what a lot of our guys liked about this movie was the sense that all of these puppet masters who think that they're in control of the situation and that they're driving the events lose control of those events. And from Herbert's perspective, and I think Denis' perspective, that's like a scary thing. Like, you're supposed to not want human agency to run away with itself and for the sort of authorities to lose control. But like it in our frankly our political moment, like, we're all kind of hoping that the authorities lose control and that they're not insurmountable and all knowing. And so there's this profound relief that comes when Timothy Chalamet, he acquired some like baritone for this for the sort of final act. Mm-hmm. He kind of transcended his twinkdom a little bit with the way he was able to sort of boom his voice and scream at people. And so yeah, when he tells the old witch silence, that's like a very very powerful moment. And you're supposed to be nervous about that, but I wasn't that nervous. I was like, yeah, we need to talk to that bitch.
Yeah,
you can edit that if you want to.
This is how no, it's fine. This is kind of exactly how we processed it on the full episode that we did. Like we all were just like, yeah, we like it when he's bossing people around and taking his rightful place as sort of the unofficial Duke of Arrakis and all this. And I guess it's official. I don't know how it works, but I wonder about the normie response. I think they probably liked it too. Like they probably wanted to be bossed around too by the him. So I don't, so they didn't, Denis didn't need to be scared of this. I don't think. I think he could have just leaned into it, had fun with it, and just, people were going to go along with it. I don't think most people process things too deeply. They'd just been like, yeah, that guy took over. He ruled. That was cool.
Yeah. And like, in his defense, I think you're right that he would have been at odds both with sort of the committee paying for the movie and sort of like anybody in a debate about sort of the direction of the movie would have been able to leverage both sort of the money people and the artistic, like, this isn't what Frank Herbert would have wanted. sort of argument. So I get it. I get it. But it's still like it. I wanted him to. I wanted him to tell the story as it really. Like the story itself, I feel like has a life of its own, which is, obviously that's kind of the point of the movie as well. Is that stories have a life of their own. There's a rendition of it to come. There's a rendition of this written in the books in heaven.
Yeah.
That we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, you had a good thread on Dune Part 2, and when I clipped it, like I took a screenshot of it. At the time, it got pretty big. I mean, this isn't particularly big for your stuff, but it was 120,000 views. It could have doubled that. I don't know, but you had this thread, and I'll ask you about a couple parts of it. So you've kind of, I think you've already said this, but I'll put it out there again and let you speak to it. You said Dune 2 is about God making fools of everyone, including Denis Villeneuve and Frank Herbert. So you've spoken to that, but that was a good line. I think that's what got so many people engaged in this thread initially.
Yeah. There's a meta narrative happening, right? They're having the same conflict as the characters, which is I think that they're afraid. You can see Javier Bardem do this, where he will at times love Stilgar and be Stilgar and like be comfortable in that skin, and he's a great actor, and it's funny because like a guy like that has no problem absolutely embodying Anton Chigurh, but he can't bring himself to be sincere about this like religious believer. And it's the same phenomenon with like Austin Butler. One of the reasons he's so great is because there's nothing scary or gauche or like socially intimidating about playing like a guy who licks knives and like leers at people and eats babies or whatever. Like that's to be expected. But to really inhabit this religious fanatic and without making fun of him, without constantly trying to like distance yourself psychologically from the character, it feels like a bridge too far. Yeah. I thought Josh Brolin, in contrast, well, you saw the poem that he wrote to Timothy Chalamet, where I don't remember the exact words, but it was like super gay, like.
Yeah, we mentioned on the other episode. Yeah, it was. I still haven't even actually bothered to read it, but yeah, it was something like your smooth white body or something like that.
Well, and like again, he was able to sort of channel a socially acceptable impulse in their circles, which is like the call me by your name, like let me eat the peach that you jerked off into, like older man and twink thing, and like that was an okay way to do the sort of ecstatic religious being subsumed into another person, like that was a way he could access that. Mm-hmm. But I think it actually worked. Like I think Josh Brolin, he felt like he was really committed and wanted to be there, and I thought that was it worked really well.
Yeah, you mentioned him. I'm gonna look at your thread. You say Gurney, good. Spends most of the movie an outsider, but when Paul claims Arrakis as Duke of House Atreides, he has this silent personal homecoming where he is let into the story. You can tell Brolin really wants to be here, making this movie which covers a multitude of sins.
Yeah, he I did like that there was this sort of they have to do like the stupid white guy thing where like he doesn't know how to do his tent because he's dumb white guy. It was like a Doritos commercial where they're like the white guy doesn't know and the black guy's got to show him. But I thought tying that off with like, oh yeah, let's remember that like the hierarchy that this guy snaps into and the things he believes in are still relevant here. And he gets sort of because he and Duncan Idaho um, one of the really satisfying things about Dune 1 is the love of the Bannermen for House Atreides, and the way that they snap into that hierarchy and belong to it, and it belongs to them, and there is this acceptance of superiority and inferiority without contempt or resentment either way. It's a very healthy vision of hierarchy, and this movie basically that hierarchy is of course eradicated at the end of Dune 1, and it's kind of a sweet moment right at the end where Gurney is restored in some sense to his position as a bannerman of the Duke. So I thought that really worked.
Yeah, and I'm reading the first book now, and he's at the part where I think they've reunited, and he's basically saying, "I'm not gonna leave here," and basically he has nowhere to go. Like his whole life is loyalty to this family. So
yeah,
there's no reason for him to do anything else, I guess.
Yeah, he got to play the balisette. I thought his like Tom Waits kind of approach to the balisette made the most sense. It was kind of the best way to execute that.
Is a balisette a real instrument? I don't even know.
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
If it is, it's very obscure.
In the movie, it looked like some sort of 7-string guitar or something.
Yeah. I thought that was good.
Yeah. Talk about your take on Beast Raban.
Okay, yeah. So the funny thing about Dave Bautista and Beast Raban is that he was like so excited to be in a serious movie, quote unquote, after playing this. I think he said that Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy was like just a dumb meathead who runs around with his shirt off saying dumb shit, and it's funny because like Drax is actually like a way more complicated character, and like the fact that he's silly doesn't mean that he's not like fully characterized, and so the fact that Dave Bautista thought like that the fact that he was being silly meant that like it was a stupid role. I don't know, but because Raban is like this very one note, like he's just sort of frustrated and spitting and fuming and mad all the time, and the one thing he talks about in interviews is that sort of the direction he got for Beast Raban was to play him as a coward, and I think he does that fairly well. But yeah, he and the Baron kind of get the short end in this movie because there isn't really time to show them as either like deeply malicious or particularly competent. And like when Feyd-Rautha comes to save the day for House Harkonnen, his plan is like not that smart, and so it's like they look like retards for not coming up with like, what if we know where these guys live? What if we just bomb the hell out of their house and until they're dead? And then Baron Harkonnen has that line of old-fashioned artillery, genius. And then,
yeah, and I'm trying to. The book said something about this too, and the book handles it differently, of course, but I'm trying to remember how they do it. But it's a little silly there too. So that one somewhat I think goes back on Herbert, but I can't do page and verse or whatever on that. But
well, supposedly a couple of like Dune heads in the replies, they were like, oh, it's actually like because like everybody like forgot how to use artillery because shields are so effective.
Yeah.
And so like it didn't occur to anybody to use artillery, but like number one, shield like didn't he just completely forgot about shields in this movie? Like you in the final scene where Gurney's kind of hacking through the Harkonnen guys, you see the shields, but he's just chopping right through them. Like he's not responding to the fact that they're wearing shields at all.
Yeah, he's not slow blade, not doing the slow blade thing.
Yeah, there's no slow blade. There's no slashing. He's just chopping into and just breaking right through the shield. And then there's the fact that like in both this movie and the other movies, everybody's using like kinetic projectiles all the time. So it's like, yeah, from a lore perspective, if you want to say, oh, they didn't know about that, it's like, well, okay, but in this movie they clearly did. And basically, I really think this movie would have benefited from being the series would have benefited from being a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Dune 2 ends with him sort of seizing the loyalty of the Fremen, and like if he needs to be kind of a dope in the beginning, and like that's his arc in the second movie, and then the third movie is, all right, we're gonna go, womp ass on the Emperor and Baron Harkonnen, and that's the climax of the third one. But they were trying to do a lot in this one, and they didn't really have they didn't have time for him to fall in love, really. They didn't have time for him to. I thought the one thing they did take the time for was him winning the loyalty of the true believers. I thought that was fairly well characterized. But you don't ever, and you're talking about two movies, both of which are almost 3 hours long. You never see any real stakes for the Fremen. Like they're sort of mad in this like college free Palestine sense about like my people and how oppressed they are. But it's, you never see it. But like all the Harkonnens are just cutting each other's throats. Like the only violence that the Harkonnens do is like they just kill their like guy whenever he tells them news. And it's like, why do we hate these guys besides the fact that they're like scary looking and weird?
Well, it's actually in reading the book, it's a little confusing to me because in the movies they don't really show the sort of townspeople of Arrakis. There's so I didn't realize. So that's who like Raban, I guess, presumably would have been squeezing,
right?
Because they just showed us basically no one lives here but Fremen and colonizers.
Everybody's the Fremen when that's not how it is in the book.
Yeah, they also have like towns or whatever. So we don't see the towns, and I didn't really, at least I don't think we do, and I didn't realize that distinction existed. Yeah,
it's a lot like the wildlings in Game of Thrones, where like you've got this sort of serf class, and you've got this this barbarian savage, out in the woods type people who have a lot of contempt for the serf class and see them like they sort of define themselves in opposition to civilization. Whereas in the movie, just there's the white folks and the brown folks, and the brown folks are the Fremen.
Yeah. So on that exact point right there, because I do want to keep this brief. What made this whole thing so divisive? Or not divisive? That's a dumb word. But like, why did this shake out kind of the way it did online?
Yeah, I mean, you get this really easy like layup take about how Zendaya and people like Zendaya are just being foisted upon us, and it makes bad art. And to be fair, like I don't think she was a great fit for the setting, or like she just has very modern mannerisms, and the whole like northern and southern fundamental, like some of the guys are fundamentalists and some of them are like, it's sort of like Hamas and Fatah. Where one of them is like this sort of secular socialist, like Ba'athist, it's all about my people thing, which I think even in the real world most people find kind of tedious, and she was a great fit for this like college Palestinian girl, but that's like an annoying, unlikable character. And just the sort of the way they portray women in general, they have a really hard time making women likable in movies in general now, because like they had like ideological commitment that women should not be likable.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it touched on gender, it touched on race. I actually think it was more about gender than race, even though it was sort of everybody wanted to talk about, you know, like the brownoids in the Fremen, and like how that was a big problem. But like, I think that was just sort of shorthand. That was just sort of an easy take. I think it was really about gender. And if you liked Dune 2, you liked it because Paul sort of overcomes the machinations of the scheming, conniving women, and you know, isn't impressed by the fact that his girlfriend wants him to free Palestine her way. You know,
I think we're losing you.
But if you didn't like it, you didn't like it because all that stuff was there in the first place.
Yeah.
Oh, you losing me?
I was, but it sounds like you're back.
Okay. Do I need to say anything again?
I think the last thing you said, if you did like it, you liked it because X.
Oh, yeah. If you did like it, you liked it because Paul sort of overcomes the longhouse and he tells all the scheming, conniving women to shut the hell up, and he doesn't listen to a girlfriend who like she doesn't like. Don't like it. You don't like it because all that stuff was in the story in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I agree with that. You don't have to, but on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put this movie?
Oh, geez. I think I'd give it like I'd give it like an 8.
Okay. Nice.
Like 7.
You're cutting out again, but I think you said maybe between 8 and 7 or something. Unfortunately, we have lost contact with Dr. Bennett. He is driving across the vast American landscape, and he may have been swallowed by the void. He may be drifting in the great unknown right now. We don't really know. We hope that he is returned to us unharmed and alive, but there's no guarantees at this point. So anyway, please like and comment and subscribe and share this episode with a friend. And hopefully we see Dr. Bennett again someday. Thank you.